This video lesson is for Unit 5, Fractions, Lesson 5. How can a whole number be divided? The learning target for this lesson is I can compute quotients of fractions, and the standard is 6.ns.1. We can divide whole numbers by fractions using similar methods. So we're going to talk about the bar model to divide whole numbers by fractions. Our first problem is 2 divided by 3/4. So here we have 2, 1, and 2. And it's split up into 4 sections each. So each section is worth a fourth. 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. And the same here, all equal 1/4. And we're going to split this up into groups of 3/4. So you'll notice right here we have darker red shaded, all with number ones. That's 1/4, or excuse me, 1, 2, 3/4. And then here we have 1, 2, 3/4. So we have a total of 2 groups. Now we have 2 left over. So this is where it gets a little confusing for some people because we might have 2 left over, but it's not 2 out of 4. The 2 is the remaining, but how many are in a group? There's 3 in a group. So if we made an imaginary line here, or an imaginary another box here, that would be how many would be left over. So there's 2 left over, that's remainder, out of how many altogether? Well, that's 3. So our answer would actually be 2 divided by 3/4 would be the 2 wholes, 1 and then 2. Then we have 2 left over out of 3, right there, our numerator, in each group. Now, the second one, we have 4 divided by 1/2. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Split them all in half there, and we're going to divide them by half. So there's 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That one's a little easier. 4 divided by 1/2 then would be 8. We have 8 total groups there. Now we're going to practice this same thing using the bar model. We're going to divide 3 by 5/6. I did my 3 here. 1, 2, 3. I split them up into 6. 1, 6, 1, 6, 1, 6, 1, 6, 1, 6, 1, 6, for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm going to group them in groups of 5. So my first group of 5 will be right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. Let's change colors here and do another group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 2 total so far. And then let's switch colors again and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how many total do we have so far? 1, 2, 3. Now, how many do we have left over? So we have 3 total. That's our whole number. We have 1, 2, 3 left over. But how many are in a group? It's 5. So if we were to make an imaginary line here and add 1 there and 1 there, that could make another group of 5, right? So we have 1, 2, 3 out of 5 total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my answer would be 3 and 1, 2, 3 fifths. So 3 divided by 5/6 would be 3 and 3 fifths. Remember, the number we have left over, 1, 2, 3, out of how many would go in a group, which would be 5 total. So 3 divided by 5/6 would be 3 and 3 fifths. Our next problem, we're going to divide 4 divided by 2/3 using the bar model here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I split it into thirds because that's our denominator. So each of these equals a third. And we're going to put them in groups of how many? 2. So let's do that. Here is one group. another group, so that's 2 total, another group of 2, another group of 2. It's not very good. Let's do that one over. Another group of 2. And now I'm going to switch colors, and I'm going to group these 2 here, and switch colors again, and group these 2. So how many total groups do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 4 divided by 2/3 will be 6. Our next example, using the model again, we're going to divide 3 by 1/5. So I have 3, 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to divide it by fifths. So I split it each section into 5 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They all equal a fifth each, all of these. And I'm going to put them in groups of 1/5. So let's group these. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. A total of 15. So 3 divided by 1/5 would be 15. And our last example is 2 divided by 2/5. We're using the bar model again. So I have my 2, 1, 2, split it up into fifths. That's my denominator, 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, 1/5. The same for these here. We're going to put them in groups of 2. So here's my first group of 2, my next group of 2, my next group of 2, my next group of 2, and then I have 2 more remaining. I'll group these in red. So how many groups do I have total? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 2 divided by 2/5 is 5. Another way to divide whole numbers by fractions is to multiply by the reciprocal. Remember, a reciprocal is 2 numbers whose product is 1. We did this on our last lesson. 2 numbers whose product is 1 is called the reciprocal. So just like last lesson, we are going to practice finding the reciprocal. So what would I multiply 6/8 by to get 1? Remember, just flip it over or invert it. Invert it is the word that we use to flip it over. So if we multiply 6/8 by 8/6, we would have 1. So the reciprocal of 6/8 is 8/6. The reciprocal of 3/5. What would we multiply 3/5 by to get 1? Well, 5/3. We just invert this. Flip it over. So it would be 5/3. If we multiply those together, we'll get 1. And 3. First, let me write 3 as a fraction. 3/1. What is the reciprocal of that? What would I multiply 3/1 by to get 1? Flip it over or invert it. It would be 1/3. That is the reciprocal of 3. Same thing for 9. We need to make this a fraction. 9/1. The reciprocal of that, we invert this, change places with the denominator and the numerator, and it would be 1/9. If I multiply 1/9 times 9/1, that will give me 1. Now we're going to talk about the algorithm for dividing a whole number by a fraction. So the steps. Let's look at the steps first of all. Step 1, change a whole number to a fraction. Step 2, write the first fraction. Step 3, change to multiplication. Step 4, find the reciprocal of the second fraction, multiply, then simplify. So, first of all, I gotta change the fraction to 1. So I'm gonna change 6 to 6/1 divided by 3/4. Remember, dividing by fractions is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal of the divisor. Like I taught in the last lesson, copy, flip, flip. Copy the dividend, flip the division to multiplication, and invert this or flip it over. It's the reciprocal. So let's do that. Copy, 6 over 1. Flip the division to multiplication, and invert or flip over the divisor. Make it 4 over 3. Now before we start multiplying, right here in step 5, check to see if we can cross cancel, because that's going to save us some time. 6 and 3 both share a common factor of 3, so I can divide them both by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Now I can multiply. I can't cross cancel here because the only factor they share is 1. So 2 times 4 is 8. 1 times 1 is 1. 8 over 1 equals 8. So 6 divided by 3/4 is 8. The next one, we got to make the dividend a fraction, so make it 4 over 1 and divided by 6/7. Now, copy, flip, flip. So we're going to copy down the dividend, flip the division to multiplication, and invert this or flip it over. So copy 4 over 1, flip the division to multiplication, and flip over the divisor or invert it, 7 over 6. Before we multiply, step 5, let's see if we can cross cancel. 4 and 6 share a common factor of 2, so we can divide 4 and 6 by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Now, can we do anything, this way? 7 and 1, no, they don't have any common factors besides 1. So we multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators. 7 times 2 is 14, and 3 times 1 is 3. Now we have to make that a mixed number. It's an improper fraction because the denominator is larger than the, numerator is larger than the denominator. So how many 3s will go into 14? That would be 4. And then how many would be left? Well, 4 times 3 is 12. 2 would be left then. So 4 and 2/3 is the answer to 4 divided by 6/7. Now we're going to use the algorithm here to divide 6 by 3/4. First of all, I need to make 6 into a fraction. So 6 over 1 divided by 3/4. And now I'm going to copy, flip, flip. Copy that. Dividend, 6 over 1. Flip the division to a multiplication. And we're going to flip over or invert the divisor. So it's now going to be 4 over 3. Before we multiply, let's see if we can cross cancel. Any common factors? 6 and 3 both share a 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Now if we cross the other way, 1 and 4 do not share any common factors except 1. Multiply the numerators together. 4 times 2 is 8, and 1 times 1 is 1. Improper fraction, so 8 divided by 1 equals 8. So 6 divided by 3/4 is 8. Next, we have 3 divided by 1/6. Let's make 3 into a fraction. 3 over 1 divided by 1/6. Copy, flip, flip. Copy the dividend, 3 over 1. Flip the division to multiplication. And flip or invert the divisor. So now it's going to be 6 over 1. Now, can we cross cancel? 3 and 1 do not share any common factors besides 1. 1 and 6 do not either, so we multiply the numerators, then multiply the denominator. 6 times 3 is 18. 1 times 1 is 1. Improper fraction, 18 divided by 1 is 18. 3 divided by 1/6 is 18. Now we are going to divide 8 divided by 5/6. First, let's write 8 over 1, make that a fraction, divided by 5/6. Now we're going to copy, flip, flip, or division, remember, with fractions is the same as a multiplying by the reciprocal of the divisor. So copy, 8 over 1. Flip the division sign to its opposite operation, which is a multiplication, and invert or flip this over, 6 over 5. Now, see if we can cross cancel. 8 and 5 do not share any common factors, neither do 6 and 1. So we have to multiply 6 times 8 is 48, and divisors 5 times 1 is 5. Now it's an improper fraction because the numerator is larger than the denominator. How many 5s will go into 48? Well, that would be 5. 9, that would be 9, because 9 times 5 is 45. If we subtract 45 from our 48, we would have 3 left over. So 9 and 3/5 is the answer to 8 divided by 5/6. Our last example for this lesson is 9 divided by 4/5. First, we got to make 9 into a fraction. 9 over 1 divided by 4/5. So we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the divisor. Copy, flip, flip. Copy the dividend, flip the division to multiplication, and invert or flip this over. So let's do that. Copy 9 over 1. Flip the division to multiplication, and invert or flip the divisor over, 5/4. Now let's see if we can cross cancel. 9 and 4 do not share any common factors, neither do 5 and 1, so we multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators. First of all, 9 times 5 is 45, and 4 times 1 is 4. We have an improper fraction again because the numerator is larger than the denominator. So how many 4s will go into 45? Well, I know 11 times 4 is 44. So that's 11. And I would have 1 left over. And so that's my numerator. And my denominator stays the same. So 9 divided by 4/5 is 11 and 1/4. Well, that brings us to the end of this lesson. I hope now that you can say that you can compute quotients of fractions.